Good evening, everyone. Hope you are doing great on this fantastic Friday. All right. So, I am excited because I'm actually going live with my friend Tashina Gonzalez tonight to talk about all things fibroid related. Now, the thing about today's platform is that it's just going to be like a regular one-on-one, just open dialogue about uterine fibroids, about our stories, and most importantly, the importance of actually having open discussions and not allowing the stigma to cause us to suffer in silence. So happy Friday to everyone. I hope you all had a safe, fantastic, and wonderful week. So there's my friend Tashina right there. Let me go ahead and try to bring her on now. Let's see. Hope everybody's doing great today. Hope everyone's hello, Nathalie. Is it Natalie or Nathalie? I like that. I like the spelling. So let's see here. Looks like it's processing through. Let me turn up the volume. Looks like it's connecting. There she is.
Hello.
Hey, Tashina, how's it going? Happy Friday to you.
Happy Friday to you.
Can you hear me okay? I'm having trouble hearing you.
Let me try a different headphone. Give me 1 second.
Okay, sure, no problem. All right, it's pronounced Natalie. There we are. I like that. I like the spelling. Hello, N_D_D. How's it going? Hello, Elzano. Hello. Hope everyone's doing great today. So I was just telling everyone, welcome aboard. Happy Friday. I hope you all had a fantastic week. Despite all the outside stuff that's going on within our society. All right, let's
Okay. You definitely sound better to me.
Perfect. There you are. I can hear you just fine now. How are you?
Pretty good.
That's good. You look great.
Thank you.
I was literally rushing, like, oh my God, I was doing some work and I had to rush to get upstairs and try to put a little bit of lipstick on, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, right. Welcome. Happy Friday. I was just telling everyone that, today's conversation is basically going to be more laid back and open dialogue to talk about our stories,
Yep.
And the importance of having open dialogue because of the stigma and, no one wants to continue suffering in silence. Hello, Jesse Wise. Hello, Sunny in LA. I keep forgetting. Hello. Hey, those of you who are just joining us, feel free to put some comments. Let us know, where are you guys tuning in from? I'm always intrigued to know where people are tuning in from. So as I mentioned, my name is LaToya Dwight, and I am the founder of the Fibroid Pandemic. And basically, my platform was developed to help provide resources to women and their families who experience issues with uterine fibroids. So this evening, I have the wonderful, talented Tashina Gonzalez.
Hello.
Wellness coach. She's a wellness author. She's just everything wellness. You're amazing. So welcome, Tashina. Let's give Tashina some hand claps.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So it looks like Sunny in LA is tuning in from LA. Jesse's from Lake Tahoe. All right, look at that. I love it. So I'm here in Atlanta, Georgia. I've been here since 1998 by way of New York, but I'm a Georgia girl now. I love the Atlanta area. Tashina, tell them where you're from.
I am from Metro Detroit. I lived a couple years in Austin, Texas, and it made me come running back to Metro Detroit. I don't really like the cold, but I love the people and the culture here.
Right. I love it. Now, are you bilingual or trilingual?
I'm bilingual. I speak Spanish fluently, and I understand a little bit of Portuguese. So I can read Portuguese, but I can't speak it very well.
It's interesting because I can read Spanish very well. I can speak it just enough to get by.
Right.
But I can't speak it very fluently. What's funny is that years and years ago, probably 15 years ago, I used to go to the Dominican hair salon to get the blowouts, right?
Yeah.
Dry rolls, brush rolls. And it's funny because my hairdresser did not speak a lick of English. So I actually taught her English and she taught me Spanish. Well, the funny
Nice.
thing about it, Tashina, is that in the middle of the salon, they would always it was like the joke, right? Okay, let's get LaToya to read a Spanish magazine. And they'd give it to me and I would literally just go, I'll just read it and they're like, oh, okay, what does it mean? I'm like, I don't know. Have no
Right.
idea. But they're like, oh my God, like my I guess accent, my dialect was so great that it was really convincing. So if you didn't know that I didn't understand it, you would think I spoke Spanish very fluently by way
Nice.
of reading. So hello, is that Pretty Harvey? Pretty Harvey? The Learned Traveler. Welcome, welcome, welcome. So Tashina, I'm excited about our discussion.
Yeah.
Because, I reached out, I slid in your DM about, I don't know, gosh, maybe about 3-4 months ago, was it?
Mm-hmm.
If not
Yep.
longer, about 3-4 months ago, and we finally were able to connect. And we just kind of went back and forth about each other's stories. And I was like, I would love to have you come on. So
Yes.
welcome, welcome, welcome. So what I want to do, guys, and hey, just very quickly, just for some control measures here. If you all have any questions, please, please, please feel free to put them in the question box. If you put them in the feed, sometimes we can kind of overlook them. So I want to make sure that everyone does have the opportunity to get their questions addressed. So definitely feel free to put some questions in the question box if you have any questions. Hello, Perspective and Peace. Hello, Tet Michelle. Hello. So, Tashina, let's talk about our uterine fibroid journey. So I want to start with, let's kind of take it back to the basics, right? So when we first learned about our bodies, right, as young adults, I don't want to say kids, probably contingent upon your birthday, but as young adults, young children in school, let's talk about what our experience was dating back to our let's say high school ages. So I'll let you start first and then I'll go from there.
Okay. Well, actually, I'm going to go back before high school for me because mine started when I was 11. Mm-hmm. And I actually lived with my father at the time. And so I think I just went to my doctor and she's like, how old are you? Looks like you're developing. Here's some brochures. And they went in the closet and then one day, it seemed like something had happened in my underwear and my dad's like, what's that? And I was like, I think I maybe started my period. And he called a lady friend and she had one talk with me and that was it. Wow. And I remember there feeling like a little bit of shame around that. I did have one positive experience during that. And so I think 5th grade, 8th grade, and maybe sometime in high school, we had some information and some science class about it. And I do remember it might have been in 8th grade. I had one positive experience about it. And I heard in whatever science class that we had that in matriarchal societies, they don't have something called PMS. Oh, wow. So some Native American societies and some African cultures that are matriarchal, where they honor their women, they have ceremony, they do certain things for their women. Right. They don't have PMS. Really? And so I remember in my head thinking, well, that's how I'm going to be. I told myself that's how I'm going to be. When my time of the month come, I'm going to have a ceremony. I'm going to do, and I don't know how at the age of 13, 14, I thought of all this, but I was like, I'm going to do candles. I'm going to relax. I'm going to blah, blah, blah. I was really good at science. So I understood what they were explaining to me in science class. Right. And I'm going to tell myself I don't have PMS. I don't have PMS. And then I was in track and I exercised and I ate right while I was in track. And for the majority, from when I had my period to the time that I was in high school, maybe a couple years after, I generally did not have a very bad time on my time of the month.
Well, you know what? I can actually respect that because your words are power, right? So what we speak, we're able to bring that to fruition. So I think that's amazing that you learned about it, you honed in on it. And you said, you know what, this is going to be me. I think that's amazing. Hello, my womb. How's it going? I think that's amazing. I think that's great. Being able to have the authority to speak over your body. So how did that work out for you, though?
It worked out well for a while, but then when I came to my when we start the next chapter of when I came to my fibroids, I think that's why it was so devastating for me.
Right.
That's why it was so devastating, because I was like, the first day that like I excessively bleed, I immediately ran to the emergency room because I was like,
Right.
this doesn't happen to me. I
Right.
barely have any
Right.
issues.
Right. You know, it's so true because dating back, you know, when I was younger in my, you know, older teenagers period back in high school, you know, and you and I talked about this. We had what was called physical ed class, health education, and we talked about, you know, health and sex ed, and it was literally probably one session. They talked about the birds and the bees, but I didn't really understand. Okay, well, this is so embarrassing, guys. I used to think if a man inserts his fingers into a woman that she would actually get pregnant. That just goes to show either how inefficient my teacher was or how much I didn't pay attention.
Right.
It could have been a combination of both, right? But,
Right.
you know, moving past that into my adult years, you know, I never really talked about PMS because I didn't really notice it or realize it, or let me change that. I assumed that was part of growing into my womanhood, right?
Right.
So I believe that, hello, everybody. I think that's what a lot of women believe because that's kind of what we're taught in our culture, right?
Absolutely. My sister, in contrast, had lots of issues. She actually had to get her stomach pumped not once, but not twice for all of the medication that she was on. And I think when she was going through that was a time that I lived in Texas during my college years, and I never knew till way after the fact. So I think that speaks very well to, we don't have conversations about this.
Right.
We don't have conversations about, if your pain is of this level, what are the things that you can do?
Right. I mean, if you were in school, I remember a cousin of mine, we were so close when we were younger, she would literally cry. And I couldn't really understand it because I started my menstrual when I was 13 years old, right? And I couldn't really understand it because I didn't have that issue.
Right.
But you're told PMS, this is how you're supposed to feel. It's like, oh, okay, well, maybe she's being a little bit over dramatic.
Right. You see
the correlation between when you're young and the correlation between how we are treated as women as it relates to fibroids. People oftentimes think that we're being over dramatic, and we're not, you know? But yeah, I remember she would be so like literally doubled over to where she would vomit, she would get sick. And almost every month she would have to stay at home like the first 2 days of her cycle. And I couldn't really understand it. Now, obviously, hindsight is 2020. I totally understand it now. But back then I didn't get it because it wasn't happening to me. But not only that, not many women were talking about it. It's like taboo, right? It's like taboo.
Totally. No one talks about it, and there's just a shame around it, and it's just why is there any shame about it? Like a tampon falls out of your pocket, and you're like, oh my goodness, did anybody see that?
Oh my gosh, it's so embarrassing. It's so embarrassing.
Yeah,
it is so embarrassing. So let's talk about why we think no one wants to talk about periods first, right? Because all this goes hand in hand. Your menstrual, PMS, periods, fibroids, they all go hand in hand. So in my opinion, I believe no one likes to talk about fibroids because it usually surrounds around our menstrual cycle. And as an adult woman, it's kind of embarrassing saying, yeah, I had an accident. I had to leave work and go home and take a shower because I had an accident.
Right. I would 100% agree. And I think that narrative needs to change. I mean, it's just one other process that you go through. Like, if I had some other type of sickness and I vomited, of course people would be a little bit disgusted because I don't like looking at vomit. But then you would rally around them and you would support them and be like, oh my goodness, what's going on? So why isn't it the same thing if you have a different issue, a different disease that would cause that? Yes, it's bodily fluids and you got to take care of it and you got to make sure nobody gets infected. But why is there so much more shame around that than anything else you do?
You know, and that's so funny. So let me tell you a secret, and you probably could already know this, but my logo, the Fibroid Pandemic, so literally I envisioned what I wanted in my mind, in my head. And the person who actually designed this young lady, her name's Kara Janae. She's actually my niece. She's really gifted by nature. She can look at a picture and just draw it, right?
Yeah.
So I said, hey, this is what I'm thinking. I couldn't really articulate it very well. And she drew it out. She goes, how's this? I'm like, oh my gosh, that's it. So if you notice on my logo, there's these little sores on the
Yeah.
woman's face. And my tagline is, if my fibroids were external, would you take it more serious?
Yeah.
Right? If
Absolutely.
women are walking around with these huge fibroids, tumors on their face, on their arm, on their neck, in their hair, falling off the side of their face, you know, like the pedunculated fibroid where it kind of hangs off the side of your uterus, people would take it a lot more serious, would they not? If you were out
Absolutely.
vomiting all over the place, hence, you know, comparing that to very, very heavy menstrual cycles where you're having accidents. If it came out a different way of our body, people would take it a lot more serious.
Absolutely.
You know? And it's
Absolutely.
very unfortunate because the stigma, we are stigmatized already in so many different facets within our community, within our society as a whole. Like, this is just one more thing added to that, right? And it's humiliating.
Yes.
You know, for me, I'll
Yes.
tell you the truth. You know, I'll just tell you my fibroid diagnosis story very briefly. So
Yep.
I had the Mirena IUD, right? And so I went to go get the IUD replaced, and they couldn't find it, so they sent me to ultrasound. The ultrasound tech found the IUD. She's like, "Oh, there it is, right there, front and center." She couldn't find it by doing a topical IUD. She did a vaginal IUD and was able to find it right away. Well, she says to me, good bedside manners, "Oh, there's your IUD. By the way, how are your fibroids coming along? How are you feeling?" What? What's that? What?
Right.
I'm sorry, say what?
Right.
And
Right.
she literally looked like all the blood came out of her. Like she was so mortified. She realized that she
Right.
made a mistake.
Right.
This is why doing your homework is very important for people who are in the medical industry, getting to know your
Right.
client and your patient. So she
Right.
realized I didn't know what was going on. So she sent me, you know, I got back dressed, went back to the inside my doctor's office suite. This is all within the same exact doctor visit. The doctor says, yeah, you know, so we saw some large fibroids on the ultrasound. We recommend a hysterectomy. Like literally within an hour. Within an hour of the same exact doctor visit. It was mortifying. I didn't know which way to go. She didn't really give me much to go on. You know, what causes them? How did I get them? Are they sexually transmitted? Are they, you know, within my genes? I mean, did I do something wrong to my body? How do I fix? She couldn't really give me anything other than the fact that they're like kudzu. They're like a weed. So literally when she compared my womb to a weed, I was done. I was done.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was done. Let's see. Ted Michelle says, I feel like gynecologists should do ultrasounds once you get to 30 to check for fibroids. I like that idea. They could, but the issue here now is whether or not insurance companies are going to pay for it. You
Right.
know, but I love that suggestion. But yeah, my doctor recommended a hysterectomy within the same exact doctor visit of changing. I was literally going to get an IUD replaced.
Right.
They
And I
pop
mean,
it
how
out,
did that
pop
make
it
you
in.
feel?
You know what's funny is that I had a mixture of emotions. I was confused, very confused, and super duper confused. I was irritated because I felt like she was very lax about it. It's like, yeah, they're fibroids, like just have a hysterectomy. And it was almost like the audacity of me to continue asking questions. And so when I realized that the conversation was going to go anywhere, even though science does supposedly say that there is no known cause of uterine fibroids, the discussion literally went nowhere other than have a hysterectomy. That's where it started and that's where it stopped at.
Right.
I was outdone. I was outdone. But getting back to the point about menstruals, I couldn't really relate because I never really had a heavy menstrual cycle. What about
Right.
you?
So that's when it came to my fibroid story. That's why it was like so devastating for me
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't have a heavy menstrual cycle.
Mm-hmm.
If I exercised, and I ate good, I was like 5 days
Mm-hmm.
and 3 heavy days, and it was not super heavy. It could be controlled. Like I was like, I didn't know that ultra tampons existed before. I didn't know there was like a level 5. I didn't need them ever.
Yeah.
I was like regular and super and light pretty
Mhm.
much were good for me
Right.
until I came to the point that I had fibroids. And for me, I actually have 2 fibroid stories because
Right.
I have them again right now. But
Right.
the first time around, I started heavy bleeding that one day. I went upstairs, I took a shower, I came back and I bled through a super plus, and I was like, I'm dying.
You're like,
I'm dying.
Yes!
I was like, I gotta go to the emergency room because
Mhm.
I had never had any heavy menstrual before, and all of a sudden I just bled through twice in like 2
Wow. Wow.
at an emergency room, and then
Okay.
tell me,
Can you guys still see? Can you still see me? Looks like it's buffering. Did I lose? Okay, there you are. Can you
yeah,
see me? Okay,
I
perfect.
can see you fine.
Well,
Yep.
technology. Oh well.
Yep. So yeah, I go to the emergency room thinking that I'm dying because like this has never happened before, and they tell me I'm fine. They're just like, no, you're fine. Like that just happens. People just have, oh, you've never had a heavy menstrual cycle? Or you're fine.
You're
Oh, we
like,
just checked.
sir, no, my guts are like my guts are coming out.
Right.
It's blood. It has to be something else.
They're like, we checked your blood. Your blood is good. Like you're fine. And I left the emergency room and lived like that for the next 4 to 5 months
Mm-hmm.
until I took a boot camp class,
Uh-huh.
and I started to feel like I had no energy whatsoever
Uh-huh.
by the end of Friday. Like I could not make it through a week anymore. So I would
Right.
just come home Friday and I would pass out.
Mm-hmm.
So I went to my doctor for that issue
Uh-huh.
to understand why. And my hemoglobin was completely low and my iron was completely low. And there was a couple times they kept telling your body's compensating. Well, it was the first day. Of course my body's compensating.
Exactly.
The first day.
Right.
But 3 months later, I was anemic and iron deficient.
Oh.
And so it probably took a year before I even knew that I had fibroids, because every person that I talked to was like, oh, but you're fine. It's not that bad. Like my hemoglobin wasn't deathly bad.
Right.
But if you looked at my hemoglobin average of what Tashina needs to feel healthy
Right.
and feel energetic,
Right.
it was too low for me.
Right.
11 was too low for me because I'm usually at 13.5.
Right.
I understand that 12 is good,
Right.
but Tashina needs to be at
for
13.5.
you, right. That's
And I'm
why
at 11.
Stress is so important for a doctor to know, get to know. I mean, in any business, get to know your patient, get to know your client, get to know your customer. It is so important. So here you are bleeding out right for months, and they're still
Yes.
lax about it.
Lax about everything, and I had to keep asking, okay, what is the issue? And it did have to get to the point where I was just pretty much, I'm gonna bleed out every day. I'm gonna bleed through my clothes every day. And I just remember like a horrible experience of like being like about a year later, being at a friend's house, and it is winter time, and I have on a skirt, a slip, and a coat sitting there, and I still bleed through everything into her kitchen furniture, and just feeling so humiliated. And
so
thankfully
sorry.
she was like, it's fine, it happens, she was like, thankful for her being exactly exactly, because I'm like, she's gonna have to shampoo her this isn't like like, you know what I'm saying, she got to shampoo this seat in her kitchen where her husband and her son eat.
Oh my God.
Like.
And see, with me, what's so funny is that it's hindsight is, well, my oldest brother always teaches me to look for a silver lining in every situation. Either when my mom passed away, I'm like, listen, I'm not with that silver lining shit today, okay? Right. He has such a pure gift to really identify silver linings. So the silver lining for me was actually receiving the fibroid diagnosis, because like you, I would come home exhausted. I would always be tired, right? Tired, very lethargic. I had a bulge in my tummy, right? And I had some pressure and a little bit of pain there. But like, I honestly chopped it up to the fact that I was getting older. What's so funny, you're talking about boot camp. I used to be a boot camp instructor, and I'm like, I'm busting my tail 4 to 6 days a week. Why the heck can I not get rid of this bulge, right? Right. So it was frustrating to me. So actually receiving the fibroid diagnosis provided an answer to a lot of the things that I had already been feeling physically. So that's the silver lining. However, it's like my body then betrayed me, because it's almost like after getting the diagnosis, about 6 months to a year later, that's when all hell broke loose with the darn, menstruals. So,
right.
Like you and I never had a heavy menstrual, but I tell you what, after I got that diagnosis about 6 months to about a year later, all hell broke loose. So like you, I too had an accident. It was so humiliating. I was actually at work. Humiliating. The great thing is, where the office was set up at that time, I kind of sat like off in a corner a little bit. And I
Yeah.
had on black pants. I actually had a long sweater on. And I always kept an extra suit jacket just in case I had to run into a quick client meeting. So
Right.
all that is actually what saved me. And then the other thing was when I actually left the office building, where my car was parked at the top of the parking deck, I can leave at the back door and literally walk 5 steps and go straight to my car. So I didn't have
Yeah.
to worry about getting on the elevator, going through the lobby, and facing all this darn humiliation. So, guys, those of you who are just joining us, I have Tashina Gonzalez on with me. She goes by Sweet Canella 5. And we are just having a regular open dialogue about the stigma of fibroids and why it's so very important to have the discussion and just talk about it. So I want to turn really quickly. Looks like we have a question. Looks like Sunny and Ellie says, what's up with the doctors always opting us for hysterectomies? Christina,
Yeah.
I'll let you talk about that.
I mean, as a holistic wellness coach, I mean, that is what I do is I teach. One of the main things I do is teach individuals to advocate for their health.
Mm-hmm.
And just from an overall perspective, doctors always go with the easy answer. And specialists only see their specialty. And so we as individuals have to learn how to, number one, advocate our health and learn about functional medicine. Because you go to a specialist that only looks at this one thing and knows this one thing. And it's always the whole body. It's always diet, exercise, making sure you eliminate chemicals when it comes to any disease, including when you have hormone issues.
You know, I appreciate you for saying that because that has always been a question that comes up. And my answer is probably almost identical to yours. People would say, well, why does my doctor only tell me a hysterectomy? You know, one thing I will say as an African-American woman, it's proven fact. This is nothing that the fibroid pandemic is just taken out of thin air. It's a proven fact that oftentimes African-American people in general do not receive the same level of care. So because of that, it's so much more important that we really advocate for ourselves. Because if we don't advocate for ourselves, how can we expect anyone else to do it, right? So number one. And number two, once you start to advocate for yourself, you got to come with facts, right?
Yes.
Don't go on WebMD. There's nothing wrong with WebMD, but just come with your facts. And I find that when you talk to a doctor with your questions ready to go, and it appears as though you at least have some idea of what you're talking about, they tend to treat you a lot differently, right? They respond to you differently, more positively. So number one, be your own best advocate. But in order to best advocate for yourself, do your research and come with your questions. Come question ready. Don't wait until you get to that doctor's office to decide to start having an open dialogue and trying to figure this whole thing out. No, do your research. So when you sit down with them, you are already ready and prepared because they definitely will. It's funny because when I went, and I'll jump to this later, but when I went to get my procedure done, I never had surgery. I did have a procedure though. When I went to get my procedure, literally when I went for a consultation and my consultation was so thorough. At the end of it, we literally had to talk for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. So I was so impressed. The doctor said to me, Mrs. Dwight, there's literally nothing else we can tell you. You didn't really need us.
Right.
Like, you really didn't need us. Like, you have clearly done all of your homework. And for me, I wasn't trying to be a know-it-all, but that made me feel as though I did my homework, right?
Right.
It made me feel as though I did my homework. And it provided a level of comfort for me because that told me that I was doing what was in my best interest. So I just wanted to point that out. Looks like NDD says, when are your fibroids too big to naturally shrink? Ooh, Tashina, I'll let you talk about that, then I'll add to it.
I think that's going to be very individual for each person, right? So you're going to, everybody type is different, and it really is based on your diagnosis and the symptoms that you're having.
Yes.
Because one of the things that they tell us in the beginning is, oh, they're not a big deal, right? So, but you have to decide if that's right for you. And then there's just many things that you can do to support even the symptoms. There's natural things that you can do to support the symptoms. And then there's natural things that have been mentioned that may or may not and have not been proven to shrink fibroids.
Right. I like that because I agree with you 1000%. Everyone's body is completely different. It's really contingent upon the size of your fibroids, their location, and what issues they're causing within your body. If you are to a point to where, let's say your fibroids are the size of a walnut, didn't even really know you had them, your menstruals are manageable, they may not be too big, but for someone else, that same exact size fibroid can be very detrimental to their health to a point to where they become anemic, they're having blood transfusions, they're passing out twice a month, so it's really contingent upon your body and what your fibroids are actually doing to impact your body negatively would determine whether or not you want to go more the holistic route and or the more traditional westernized approach, right? I will say, again, do your research. And there's no right or wrong answer. There's no right. So, I was vegan. I will admit I'm no longer vegan. And I tell you, I get some people who frown upon that. And that's fine. I do what I feel is in my best interest, though, right?
Right.
And
Yep.
that's what I always encourage people to do. Do what you feel is in your best interest. But definitely, when you go to the doctor, come with your questions so that you can have a much better experience.
Absolutely.
Shani Cuts Hair says, I was told I wouldn't be able to have kids unless I did surgery for fibroids. I have 3, and the biggest one is 5 centimeters. Wow. I'll say this, Shani. Again, everyone's body is different, but I will tell you that it's proven fact. There are thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of women who have had children post fibroids, whether they had surgery, whether they went the holistic route, or whether they did nothing at all. I would tell you, I had 2 large fibroids. One was 11 centimeters, which is huge. Then the second largest, the second was 7 centimeters. And I looked like I was like 4 months pregnant. I hated it. I didn't have any children after that because I already had my son. My son is 27 right now. So I wasn't trying to have children, but I did want to maintain my uterus. So I will tell you again, there are definitely proven facts that you can still have children, even if you do have fibroid surgery. So I want to make sure you're aware of that. Going forward, guys, just as a reminder for those of you who are just joining us, if you would please put your questions in the question box. I want to make sure we don't overlook anyone. It looks like we have a question here. Let's see. NDD asks, what are the options for removal? That's a great question.
So the option that I actually went with, because again, I have 2 stories of fibroids. So for the first time is I had a myomectomy. So I had a fibroid. I can't remember how many centimeters, but they said it was like medium size. And it was in the lining of my uterus. So rather than having a hysterectomy.
Intramural.
So that is the option that I went with. And I know there's at least 5 other options.
Yeah, I mean, in addition to a myomectomy, you contingent upon, again, the size and the location and the number of fibroids you have, you can have either a open myomectomy where they literally cut you open. You can have a laparoscopic myomectomy where it's a small incision. They can also do a robotic myomectomy as well. You can go to holistic route, again, incorporating exercise, healthy eating, holistic regimen with reducing your stress levels and things of that nature to help shrink them. Now typically that's a longer process, but from my opinion, it's more lasting, right?
Absolutely.
And the reason why I say that, because people don't realize that fibroids can, and more than likely will grow back if you do not change your eating habits. Now, I just saw someone on social media who said, going vegan or eliminating dairy, all that eating healthy stuff is BS. Yeah. And I was like, wow, that's such a thought-provoking post. Interesting, So,
I mean, I can interject then my second story, right? So I currently have fibroids again. And this is probably 6 years after I developed them the first time. And at the time, I've always tried to eat healthy, tried to eat very healthy. And before I was leaning towards keto, but I wasn't, gung-ho keto. And so the second time around in January, I started to have heavy periods again. This is not how I've been living for the past 4 years. I go to my primary care physician. I say, my periods are getting heavier. I think I have an issue. And she says, are you in pain? Is it really uncomfortable? Is it anything other than heavy period? And I say no. She said, okay, you're fine. Then if it gets bad, go to the gynecologist. And I
Wow.
said no. And I booked and paid to go to a functional medicine
Good for
doctor.
you. Good for
And
you.
and so I went to the functional medicine,
Mm-hmm.
and she took some blood work, and she looked at a bunch of a blood work, and she's like, there's a bunch of stuff wrong here. Like
Mm-hmm.
there were lots of my different levels, like even my A1C,
Uh-huh.
that was very close to being out of range. And
Wow.
so once again, for Tashina, there was a bunch of issues. And so she started to do some things, and
Uh-huh.
that's when I found out that I had fibroids again.
Mm-hmm.
Had I not advocated for myself, I would have did the same
That's
process
the
before. I would
key.
have waited an hour or a year and a half
Uh-huh.
to find out that I had fibroids again. But I'm like,
Right.
no, we need to fix this before it gets bad. And so
Right.
now my route this time around is working with my functional medicine doctor. And
Uh-huh.
from functional medicine,
Mm-hmm.
they gave me the recommendation to eat as vegan
Uh-huh.
as possible. So
Mm-hmm.
the physician here at
Mm-hmm.
the where I go in Michigan has said that is part of the solution. And
Right.
in addition to that, we're looking at all my hormone pathways
Mm-hmm.
in order to see what vitamins, what minerals, what possible natural things can be done to add to it.
Uh-huh.
And then they've recommended, one medication if I have heavy days of bleeding that may help lessen that
Right.
bleeding.
Right. And again, that is your experience, and that makes total sense. I mean, first of all, kudos to your doctor for being that thorough and actually recommending that you go to a vegan lifestyle, because a lot of doctors, probably because you went more functional medicine, you're more likely to get that type of recommendation. But a lot of doctors who practice just more westernized European type of, medicine, they're not doing that.
Yep.
So, kudos for you. I really appreciate that. Um, let's see, there was a question. I'm trying to go back, guys. I'm not that great at keeping track of it, because when the conversations get so great, we just keep going. But I do want to go back to finish. I don't remember who it was. I don't know if it was Sunny in LA. There was someone who asked about the different procedures. Oh, let's see here.
Yes.
What are the options? NDD said, what are the options for removal? So yeah, again, myomectomy. You can do hysterectomy. You can also have a CESA. You can have uterine fibroid embolization. There's also what's called watchful waiting. You don't have to do anything if it's not detrimental, if it's not really impacting your lifestyle. So I hope that was helpful. Candace, thank you so much for sharing that. Candace said that she has 2 children with large fibroids. So that's very helpful to know. Live Free HBC asks, why am I no longer vegan? I get that question quite often, for various reasons. I will say that when I was vegan, I actually eat a lot, right? I eat a ton. I do a lot of food prep. So that transition wasn't very difficult for me. I literally just went cold turkey. To my ignorance, which I'll be fully transparent, I did not realize what veganism was. I thought it was a cool way to say vegetarian.
Right.
I learned very fast. In like the first 3 days, I was like, oh, okay. So I was vegan for about 9 months, for about almost a year. That was in 2018, was it? I'm getting my years mixed up now. COVID, like the 2020 is such a blank. I can't even.
Right.
But about 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, I was vegan for about 9 months. The issue that I had is that my profession, and I know you guys are going to say that's a horrible excuse, but my profession, I'm an employee benefits consultant. So what I do is negotiate business-to-business contracts with insurance carriers on behalf of employers. So I'm managing multi-million-dollar contracts, right? So when you go through open enrollment, they say your benefits are changing. I'm the person who's negotiating the contract in the background. So I said that to say, oftentimes I am whining and dining clients on a regular basis. Obviously 2020 didn't count, but I'm going to steakhouses. I'm going to all these nice, luxurious restaurants to really, schmooze, if you will, my clients. So that made it difficult for me because my client they don't want to go to a restaurant. I mean, I want to go to this nice salad place. I love salad. They don't want to do that. They don't want soup and salad. They want the, $80 steak.
Right.
So that was one thing. that's not the reason why, but I found it difficult to maintain because of my lifestyle, my profession.
Right.
Secondly, I would oftentimes get really, really, really bad headaches, and I would actually pass out. But not only that, now mind you, I said I eat a lot, so I wasn't eating enough. But
Right.
also, one thing that I did love is that in my abdomen area, right, I felt a tremendous amount of relief. I was
Right.
able to have, my menstruals were under control. I was able to have bowel movements regularly. Um, the issue, the pain and pressure and bloating was not that bad. In my headspace, though, I wasn't connecting. Like
Yeah.
it was like I was short circuiting. I would forget all the time. I had brain fog. I had brain fog
Yeah.
all the time. And I'm like, am I killing myself a slow death? I don't understand what's going
Right.
on. So what I did was I would have a cheat day. Then I'd go
Right.
back for like 2, 3 weeks. I had one cheat day and go, and I realized on that cheat day, I felt better. So
Yes.
to answer the question, that's why. Lastly, the thing that really made me say, you know what, this just is not for me. I don't know if you guys are familiar with the Vitamin Lady here in Atlanta, Georgia. She's it's a black owned it's a whole food wellness store, right? A herb shop, should I say? And so she can actually give you, she can read your blood and tell you what type of food goes
Mm-hmm.
well with your blood type. So she tests for eating for your blood type. So I went there, she tested my blood. And it's so funny. I never met her a day in my life. And she said, based on the type of blood, your blood type, you can't do this. You should never eat that. You should. And literally, this is so crazy. I was inside her store and I started crying. And
Yeah.
I was, again, humiliated. When they do like they read your palm and you're like, oh my God, somebody had to tell them this is not real. It was one of those situations where I was like, I felt like I was having like an out of body experience because she was so spot on. And everything she said, if you eat this, your body's going to react like this. Literally 100% of everything she told me, I had experienced. So that was the catalyst that made me say, you know what, this is not for me. So long story, long way to say that's the reason why I'm no longer vegan.
Yep.
A Mott baby says the fibroids to shrink. My doctor says sometimes this happens. I think I probably missed what topic we're on. A fashion slave says, yes, this is what I do. It helped. Candace _ antique says, a Mott baby, no, they got really big when I got pregnant. After my first pregnancy, I felt like the shrink because my abdomen was smaller, but pregnancy number 2, they came back. Yeah, that's very helpful to know. And typically, it's said that estrogen dominance is one of the main culprits,
Yes.
So, you know, during pregnancy, your body's full of estrogen, and a lot of the food that we eat contains a lot of estrogen in it as well. So let's see, I want to go to another question. And this is crazy, Tashina, because time goes by so fast. When are fibroids too big to shrink? Looks like we did talk about that one already.
Yep.
Sunny in LA says, does anyone know if once you reach menopause, does the fibroid shrink or leave? That's a good question.
Yeah. According to the professionals, they usually do. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
because of what was just mentioned with the estrogen
Yep.
dominance,
Mm-hmm.
because once you hit menopause, your estrogen levels lower, they
Mm-hmm.
do tend to shrink or even disappear.
100% agree. Yep. Live Free HBC says, yes, I completely understand. I eat for my blood type. Also, it helps tremendously with my thyroid issue. It does. That's awesome. I think I addressed all the questions. Amat Baby says, I think a good option is Pesco vegan diet. So that's vegan, but including seafood. I think it's
For
called
those that can, yeah.
pescatarian, right? For those who can.
Pescatarian. That's what
Pescatarian.
my sister and my niece do. I'm highly allergic to anything that comes from water.
Really?
So I just eat 80% plant-based.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to eat I'll eat a week vegan. Definitely when I'm on my cycle, I eat vegan, but then I incorporate chicken
Mm-hmm.
on the off weeks.
I tell
So,
you one thing. I just saw your live. No, it was your story, and I was like, all that fruit and veggie. I was like, I want it. I just want to like grab my
yep.
phone screen and just eat it. Like here in Atlanta, there's what's called Your DeKalb Farmers Market. It's a huge farmers market, like a warehouse, and you go in there. They have food from all over the globe. Things that you probably never even seen. I know at least I haven't. And when
Right.
I tell you, I can literally be in there all day long. I absolutely love it. But yeah, getting back to pescatarian. what's interesting is that, to your point, if you can eat, seafood, because what's weird is that I am allergic to shellfish, but I can eat shrimp. I know they say shrimp is like the cockroach of the
Mm-hmm.
sea. I get it. I can eat shrimp. I can eat lobster. I can't eat clams, can't eat oyster, and no, I'm sorry. I can eat shrimp and crabs, right?
Mm-hmm.
I just found out I cannot eat lobster. Had no idea. My husband literally baked lobster probably about 2 months ago, and I couldn't wait to dig in. And so we ate dinner, got ready to go to bed, washed my face, brushed my teeth. I was like, gosh, my face. What's it on my face? I was breaking out into hives just that fast. He's like, I thought you can eat lobster. I'm like, I thought I can too. Tet Michelle says, what are your thoughts of herbalist doctors who recommend acupuncture herbs and diet change for fibroids and cysts? That's a great question.
We're honestly going to get into a lot of that in our next live because we're going to talk more about the solutions. But yeah, definitely, we're going to be very transparent and clear and state that there's not a lot of evidence when it comes to natural remedies. There just isn't.
Yes.
Because there's not money to be made in researching those.
Although years ago, back in 1700s, early 1900s, that's what they depended upon.
Right, absolutely. And I have a class on my YouTube channel that are Secrets of Ancient Cultures based on that. However, there are functional medicine doctors, so just do your research on and make sure that you're working with a functional doctor. Make sure that you're basing it on what your numbers are. Don't just your friend recommended something on Facebook. No, you need to know what are your hemoglobin levels and your A1C levels and you need to know what your body needs first. So you always have to go to the doctor first.
Absolutely.
And know your blood work and then go to a specialist. Go to someone that's certified that can tell you what these herbs, these vitamins, these supplements, these essential oils are going to do to affect the things that you need. A lot of them actually have machines. I myself have a couple of tools that we can use where your body tells us what are the herbs and the things that you need.
Well, that's amazing. I cannot wait till next session, but I saw a couple questions here. And thank you for providing a thorough answer. I appreciate that. Tet Michelle says, I am African and I have friends who've taken herbs from Africa that shrink fibroids and cysts. Yes, I've heard of that before. Elza No says, I think my question, excuse me, about cost was missed, or did I miss the answer? I don't think you missed it. I don't think I saw it. Let me go back. Let's see. Wow, we have a couple. Here we are here. We have a couple more. Let me pull that up really quick. So Tet Michelle says, is a functional doctor like a herbalist doctor? I visited one last month and he recommended acupuncture herb. We kind of touched on that, right? Okay. Yep. Wonderful. Next, she says, can both of you speak to expenses associated with your fibroid journey? I was told because I'm relatively young, my insurance won't cover it. It cut the rest of it off. I was told because I'm relatively young, my insurance won't cover it.
Pelvic ultrasound. So
what it was? Okay.
Just know that if you're going to advocate for your health, you're going to advocate for your health. Yep. So I honestly can't tell you what the cost was because I personally have always advocated for something natural. In fact, I have prescriptions for vitamin A and I have a prescription for calcium because I'm deficient. I can't have dairy. There's certain things I can't have, so I have a prescription for it. And so what I personally do is make sure that I have a lot in my health savings account.
Right.
So that if I need to go outside of what my insurance is going to pay, I have the money. Yep. Because my health is just worth the expense. So I honestly can't tell you what I've spent just because of my fibroids, because I just make sure that I set that aside because it's so important for me.
I love that answer. So I'm going to segue into what's so ironic is that I'm actually creating a class on becoming my BFF, which is becoming financially fit for fibroids. So I actually go in literally very deep about what it looks like when your copay will apply, your deductible, your out-of-pocket maximum, things of that nature. And what are some of the, in my words, I'm just going to say the gotchas surrounded around insurance. There's really no gotchas. The main thing is that people don't really take time to thoroughly understand their insurance. So it seems as though there's gotchas, but understand insurance companies. I'm not here to defend them by any means,
Right.
but they do have to follow regulatory, legislative regulations. So because of that, they have to literally cross their T's and dot their I's. But I will say this, number one, if you go into, it's contingent upon the type of policy you have. If you go to the doctor for just a regular checkup, right, it will likely be applied to your copay. Now, if you have like your annual wellness check, like your woman's OB/GYN visit, they check your blood, they give you a, pelvic exam, that's typically going to be covered 100%, meaning you don't pay anything. As long as the key though is making sure that your doctor codes your claim as a wellness and or preventive visit. Otherwise, you're going to get a bill later on. The other thing is typically if you have procedures or services that are performed outside of your normal doctor's office, so say like an outpatient procedure or outpatient facility or a hospital, it will typically be applied to your deductible. So I said all that to say, to Sheena's point, it's contingent upon the type of policy that you have, but more importantly, you want to really, really, really exercise and take advantage of any extra options that your employer offers as your insurance offers as it relates to tax-free benefits such as your HSA or your FSA. So I hope that was helpful. Question really quickly. I was told by Tech Michelle, Eastern medicine is effective for the usual diagnosis, example, diabetes, hypertension, fibroids, cysts. And I'll agree with that. What do you say to that, Tashina?
Yeah, again, I have a class on, that's what I do, right? As a holistic wellness coach. Mm-hmm. Again, while you work with your doctor and you get all the information and from them, first and foremost, that's exactly what I do is work with people who need help with energy levels, who want recommendations on different herbs, vitamin supplements, and essential mm-hmm. oils so that you can take those things in your body with your diet and exercise, which is always important as well. Your mm-hmm. body can start to heal itself. So, mm-hmm. and again, I have a class, I talk about Native American, Chinese medicine, mm-hmm. and early African American in the class that I have on my YouTube channel of Secrets of Ancient Cultures. Yep.
Now, where can I find you on YouTube?
Just my name, TASHENA. GONZALES. If you just search my name and then you can subscribe to my channel.
Awesome. We're going to leave time for maybe 2 more questions, 2 or 3. Okay, Sunny in LA says, has anyone heard of the Focus ultrasound for fibroid removal? I have not.
I haven't either.
I've never heard of that. I don't know if that's similar to Acessa, but I'm not familiar with that. I'm actually going to research that. First time I've ever heard of that one.
I'll have to look it up.
NDD says, does acupuncture help fibroids? I think we kind of touched on that as well a little bit. Let's see. NDD says, how long is recovery from surgery? It's really contingent upon the type of surgery that you have, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So they'll give you guidelines. I will tell you that they told me the guidelines for the type of myomectomy that I had mm-hmm. Was supposed to be 2 to 4 weeks. Mm-hmm. However, because I was using natural methods at the same time, mm-hmm. I was out of the bed in 5 days. So again, ooh. As a holistic wellness coach, that's something that I would work with somebody with.
You kicked ass on that.
Yeah, and I took no medication. I took no medication either, like for the inflammation and for the pain. Mm-hmm. I took mm-hmm. nothing but natural things. So it's my name, Tashina Gonzalez with an S at the end.
TASHENA.
Yeah, honestly, the easiest way to get in touch with me, friend me on IG, mm-hmm. and I have my milkshake profile website up there, and you can find my YouTube, you can find my classes, you can find how to have an appointment with me, you can find everything there.
I love it. Well, yep. I think we have time for one more. I thought I said one last question. Did we address it already? Oh, look at that. We got through them all. Well, Tashina, it has been such a pleasure. Such a pleasure. Thank you so much. So guys, for those of you who have joined and those of you who will be watching later, definitely tune in on January 29th for part 2. this time we're actually going to be on Tashina's page. So if you
Yes.
have not friended Sweet Canella 5, go and friend her right now, then come back in 2 minutes, right? We're about to log off. But you want to make sure that you are sending a friend request to Sweet Canella 5 and you are following her on Instagram. And within her Instagram link, she does have details as to how you can find her on all other social media platforms. But on January 29th, we're going to be on her platform about discussing part 2, which the topic is going to be natural support in living with fibroids with minimal effects. So we kind of touched on a lot of that already. You guys just had some questions, just getting straight to it. We really appreciate it. Sunny in LA says, thank you, ladies, and all the beautiful people in this collective. Oh, we appreciate that.
Yeah, love you too.
Well, Tashina, were there any last words you want to say before we go?
Just want to thank everyone, and I'm so looking forward to the second part where we can talk about feeling better.
I love it. Well, thanks so much. Everyone enjoy their Friday. Have a great and safe weekend.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.